Coach D Speaks here, and I got a couple things to talk about. First, check out this video of Tucker Carlson, and then come back and let's talk about it.
Look at Robert Bobby Crimo. Would you sell a gun to that guy? Does he seem like a nutcase? Of course he does. So why didn't anyone raise an alarm? Well, maybe because he didn't stand out. Maybe because there are a lot of young men in America who suddenly look and act a lot like this guy. It's not an attack, it's just true. Like Crimo, they inhabit a solitary fantasy world of social media, porn, and video games. They're high on government-endorsed weed. Smoke some more, it's good for you. They're numbed by the endless psychotropic drugs that are handed out at every school in the country by crackpots posing as counselors. And of course, they're angry. They know that their lives will not be better than their parents'. They'll be worse. That's all but guaranteed. They know that. They're not that stupid. And yet the authorities in their lives, mostly women, never stops lecturing them about their so-called privilege. You're male, you're privileged. Imagine that. Try to imagine an unhealthier, unhappier life than that. So a lot of young men in America are going nuts. Are you surprised? And by the way, a shockingly large number of them have been prescribed psychotropic drugs by their doctors, SSRIs or antidepressants. And that would include quite a few mass shooters.
First of all, imagine this society just allowing journalists to be outright misogynists. So if women would stop lecturing men about male privilege, we'd stop mass shootings. Wow. Why didn't we think of that a long time ago? And I'd like someone to name one school that is endlessly handing out psychotropic drugs to students, let alone every school in the country. How's Tucker still on television? And it's sad that countless fools hang on his every word as if he's being honest. And then he says, well, why didn't someone look at Robert Crimo and realize he was a nutcase before selling him a gun? So y'all don't want red flag laws, but you want salespeople to look at someone and decide if they're going to sell them or not sell them a firearm. That's worse than any gun law that anyone's ever come up with. Please realize Tucker doesn't think, he just speaks, and he's an idiot. And then you have Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert rage tweeting statements about gun control as well. And both of them are too clueless to realize that their tweets are making the case for gun laws rather than making a case against them. Let me explain this. Lauren Boebert tweeted the most regurgitated platitude. Because a bad person was able to acquire a gun and commit a crime, that means gun laws don't work. That's so disingenuous because it completely dismisses how many times those gun laws actually interrupted or prevented a bad person, from getting a gun and committing a mass shooting. Not to mention, no one expects gun laws to stop all gun crimes, but Lauren already knows this. This tweet was to elicit likes and cheers from her useful idiots. But let's move on to Marjorie Taylor Greene's thread of tweets, because she's either too ignorant to see what she's doing, or she's smart enough to know that the people who follow her are too ignorant to see it. So let's break down these tweets. First, she says, red flag laws didn't stop or didn't prevent the Highland Park shooting. So again, she presents the fallacy that gun laws are supposed to stop all gun crimes. We all know that could be applied to any crime in any law, but they also know that, so let's move on. Next, she says in her tweet, when are we going to start talking about drugs and SSRIs? And Tucker repeated that as well. But here's the deal. We are talking about those. You see, red flag laws would prevent people suffering from severe mental illness or people on drugs from acquiring firearms. So what you're saying is that we should have a national conversation about how people who are addicted to drugs or have mental illnesses are able to acquire guns. Thank you. We agree that we should be keeping guns out of the hands of drug addicts and severely mentally ill people. How do we do that, you ask? We allow family members, teachers, doctors, or people close to them to inform law enforcement or petition the court to inform them that the person is not fit to have a firearm, and then you take the firearms from them until they're off drugs and mentally well. That is exactly what red flag laws are. But then she doesn't stop there. Next, she says, When are we going to release the shooter's records? That statement is just vague and makes no sense without context or elaborating. However, if doctors and psychologists have records of having someone who is severely mentally ill, they could petition the court, and the court could make sure that person wasn't in possession of firearms. Again, exactly what red flag laws are. Next, she says, why didn't law enforcement take his threats of mass shootings online more seriously? We agree they should, Marjorie. So what would you suggest they do? Because my suggestion would be exactly what red flag laws are, which would be to check up on him and flag him as someone who should not be able to purchase firearms and or petition the court to have guns taken from him until he is mentally fit. Red flag laws. Lastly, she says, what did his mother know? So let's say his mother knew that he was on drugs or mentally ill or a threat to himself or other people. Red flag laws, again, would allow his mother to inform law enforcement or petition the court to have guns taken out of his possession or flag him so that he would not be able to purchase them, which he did legally. So on one hand, she understands the problem is everyone having access to guns, and she knows it's an issue, but she can't say that because it would be political suicide for her. So instead, she presents disingenuous fallacies for likes and cheers from people who don't want to think deeply about these issues. But you are literally making the case for why we should have monitoring of people who are either on drugs, mentally ill, or a threat to themselves and society. Those are red flag laws. So again, this is why I say we can't rationalize with people like Lauren Boebert. She's irrational. You can't talk logically with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She lacks logic. And you can't expect empathy from someone as apathetic as Tucker Carlson. We can only show up in November and vote out legislators who put profit and politics over people. And in Tucker's case, we have to expose them at every turn for the racist, misogynist that they are. Period.